Good afternoon. This is an infography about Embera language presented by Brian Fajardo, Jose Manuel Lalinde, and Dalia Muñoz. Embera means human being or person. This language belongs to the Chocoan language family, which has regional varieties like Emberá Chami and Emberá Katío. This language is spoken mainly in northwestern Colombia, Chocó, Risaralda, Valle, Cauca, Nariño, Caldas, Quindío, Antioquia, and Putumayo, and southwestern Panama. There are around 80,000 and 100,000 speakers of Embera varieties. Embera language belongs to indigenous language family Chocoan, and as their varieties we have Emberá Dodiva, spoken in Altrato, Pacific, Baudo. We have Northern Emberá, spoken in Darien province of Panama and the Chocó, and also Antioquia departments of Colombia. We have Emberá Katío, spoken in Sinú and San Jorge River valleys in Colombia. We have Emberá Chami, spoken in Andes, specifically in the Colombian departments of Caldas, Risaralda, and Quindío. We also have Epena, spoken in Pacific coast and inland areas of the Chocó and Cauca departments. We have Emberá Tado, spoken in San Juan River basin in Chocó. We have Dodiva and Siapidar. According to UNESCO, the Emberá language is in a vulnerable status. Children still learn the language, but its use is limited only to home or indigenous spaces. In big communities, the language is still spoken, but in urban places, Spanish is replacing the use of Emberá language. As the linguistic characteristics, we have the Emberá language has a simple vowel system, the same as in Spanish. It has nasal vowels that change the meaning of the word. It has aspirated consonants, glottalized consonants, and nasal vowels. Their structure is subject, object, verb. In this language, the verb is placed at the end of the sentence. The Emberá language is also agglutinative. This means the word is formed by adding suffixes that express time, person, number, or grammatical relations. It doesn't use definite or indefinite articles, like in Spanish el, la, or un. Also, the use of the verbs changes according to who is speaking, whether the action is finished, continued, or hypothetical. Finally, we have some common expressions in Emberá translated into English.
The word Emberá literally means people. Emberá language plays an important role as a cohesive element between the people and their original roots. Language itself is also the way Jaibanismo transmits its knowledge and wisdom unto the community. Emberá's universe is constituted of three worlds. First one, the world above the human one, where Karagavi, the Emberá main cultural hero, the souls of the deceased and the primordial beings abide. The world underneath humans, where Hai, the spirits or essences live, ruled by Trutuika, Karagavi's opposite, and the human world where Emberá people live. It's important to know that Karagavi was created from the saliva of a primordial being, female and masculine, known as Dachisese or Ankor. Karagavi created the Emberá people, the world, and gave them access to water, fire, and food. Elders have inherited by direct learning the task of transmitting their knowledge onto the new generations. The Jaibanas or priests learn from well-experienced masters about the magical spiritual power which regulates life, health, and subsistence. These priests are considered the highest authority that controls diseases and virtues of the people. The symbolism of the ancients has a huge importance, since its story constitutes the base of their identity and oral literature known as Suara Nebura or the history of the ancients. As I mentioned, the Jaibanas' role is being the traditional doctor and mediator with Jai to regulate health, subsistence, and natural cycles. This holy priest uses the pilde or borrachero in order to get in contact with the spirits of water, jungle and animals. The heist dance is a preparation ceremony in which women with painted faces summon or celebrate their relationship with the spirits. Also, these ceremonies are held to tend the river and the seas, emphasizing their independence on horticulture and fishing. Also, the use of hagua. It's important to know that Emberá people use hagua, their traditional painting, in their bodies and faces during these ceremonies, showing their transition through life, from childhood to adulthood. During the 16th century, Spanish conquerors arrived, and Emberá's decentralized political model allowed them to migrate toward inaccessible territories, resisting against colonization. During the 17th and 18th centuries, wars for gold mines control and violence weakened population. Missionaries tried to reduce people's territory by violence, but that led to forced displacements. And during the 20th and 21st centuries, armed groups, violence, and mega projects like dams has forced new migration toward human centers. By the creation of Spanish administrative provinces and the creation of agricultural mining frontiers, the Katío, Chamí, Dovida, and Esperara Septiara groups were divided. The efforts for imposing them a sedentary organization and the Catholic religion affect their decentralized model patterns, though lots of Emberá populations kept their culture and manners. Confinement and murder of Emberá leaders has disintegrated safeguards, forcing communities to abandon their cultural traditions such as horticulture or fishing. Due to this forced displacement, lots of Emberá people are living right now in marginalized, overcrowded neighborhoods in cities such as Bogotá and Medellin, where these families make a living by selling bracelets made of chaquiras or necklaces. To confront the pressure from the state and companies, they have adopted forms of organizations such as the Cabildo, through which they fight for the protection of their rivers and the recovery of their territories.
Now diving more into the legal and educational framework, there has been Colombian policies that aim to strengthen the indigenous education. One of the most important ones was the recognition of Colombia as a multicultural territory in the Constitution of 91. In this constitution, they embrace the different communities and languages that are spoken in this country. Now, if I had to mention one specific decree, that would be the 481 of 2025, which gave these communities some real autonomy through the creation of SEIP, which stands for the System of Own Education, Own Indigenous Education. Talking now about a specific educational context, we can see that in Mistrato and Belalcázar, some towns in El Eje Cafetero, some classrooms teach Embera through a syllabic method, which focuses on vowels first and help learners get the foundations of the language. Regarding emerging projects, we have Huerta Escolar that tries to mix the Western science with the ancestral plant knowledge. There's also a teacher training program called El Maestro Llega, which ultimately show us that there are attempts to integrate Embera's culture, cosmovision, and traditions into education. Now, looking into revitalization efforts, programs like Olimpiadas STEAM Plus 2025 and new guidelines from the Ministry of Science try to include indigenous traditions. They have been recognizing things like Ibara body paint and engineering of tambus as actual forms of technology. Not everything is perfect though. Among the obstacles we have the armed conflict and forced displacement. They have for so long been an issue that affects Embera's communities as well as most indigenous people. In addition to that, Embera students often run into standardized curriculums and tests like Saber Once that don't really take into account or into consideration their culture. Finally, the ones who really stand firm for passing on their knowledge are the mayores, also known as sages, and they believe that education is a way to bring their cosmovision to the classroom and to decolonize themselves from the dominant powers.
The Embera language is important for our Colombian and global world context since it's a language that represents the importance of unity and peace among people. The name itself means, as I explained before, people, and that shows the cohesion of these people with nature, elemental forces, and society. Also, the relationship of this language and its oral tradition inherited from one generation to another was kind of interesting. As we know, a language is not only the way a group of people use to communicate among them, but also an instrument which transmits knowledge, wisdom, traditions, and cultural essence. Embera language must not die because that would mean the death of a culture and history. A history that could teach society how to make a better use of the land and its resources. We, as a group, consider that language and identity are two elements that walk by the hand, not separated. A language bears an identity, and that identity speaks about a community that sits and has a cultural essence that should not be ignored or looked down. And something that surprised us the most was the fact that the Embera people have been living in an eternal cycle of migration all over its history. From their very beginnings, they fought with conquerors or separate groups who tried to indoctrinate them with religion or ideologies, ignoring its own culture and values, considering them as something strange. Nevertheless, the Embera people knew how to resist against them in the century during all these centuries. For example, since the decentralized model they had helped them to escape from Spanish domination. Unfortunately, during the 7th, the 18th, the 20th, and 21st centuries, they have experienced violence by armored groups, economical and religious forces, forcing them to escape. But bearing with them their history that is refusing to die.